My name is Sally Butzel Lewis, Mrs. Leonard T. Lewis.
And how long have you been affiliated with
With Bethel? Since my grandfather helped start it.
Okay. One of the things that'll help us out when we edit this, if you can be more like you're telling a story than answering a question. So if I say, when was the temple founded, instead of saying, like giving me a date, you would say, the temple was founded in, like that, okay? So that,
One of the founders of the temple was my grandfather. Do you want me to give his name?
sure, that would be fine.
Well, I guess that was Martin Leo Butzel.
And how long ago was that? When was the temple?
Whenever the temple was started, I don't remember the date. I wasn't around.
Okay. And how long, what are your first memories of temple?
I really don't know. I went to Sunday school briefly, and then I had some Jewish education elsewhere, and I just was never very taken with it, but I was part of it. That's all there was to it. I belonged, as did my parents.
Can you tell me a little bit about your involvement in the community outside of Temple, in terms of like volunteerism or membership in charitable organizations?
I have been very much involved with volunteerism for really almost as long as I can remember, probably starting in school, where we supported the Berry School down in Georgia, and the visiting nurses was one of our school projects. We were just brought up to just take it for granted that one did these things, that one cared about them. And I so continued and have been very active in the community for many years until rather recently I was no longer able physically to participate in a lot of things. But I have been, you want to know what I was involved in personally? Very deeply in Franklin Settlement, which is the oldest settlement house in Michigan. And I served there as president and board member and that sort of thing. And I've been involved in many other things, the symphony, the Oakland Literacy Council, for instance, things of that nature.
Tell me about your involvement in the symphony. What's that?
I don't know, I just was awfully active in it. Served on, I think I was on the board for a while, and I don't really remember. It's once you do things, you forget once they're done. And while you continue to be affiliated and support and be interested, you don't get very active in it after a certain number of years.
Now, was growing up, were you involved in music a lot? Was that an important part of your life as a youngster?
I suppose when I was probably about 5, I started going to the children's concerts. Way back, when I was old enough to sit through it. And I always loved it. It was great fun.
Now, but you've continued to, that's continued to be an important part of your life as a...
Well, I love going to the symphony. And now we go to the coffee concerts in the morning, and that's always fun when I'm here. And I always have been part of it, involved in it a little bit, very much so in earlier years. I'm sorry I didn't bring you a listing of it because it would have helped you.
That's
Now, no. Well, I tried to take piano lessons once. And I decided I really wanted to, but I called a friend of mine, Dorothy Roosevelt, and I asked her one day, what do you require of your students? And she said, what do you mean? And I said, well, how many hours of practice and things of that nature, and what do you charge? And so she told me, and she said, if they aren't very good, why, I charge so much, and they have to practice so many hours a week. And if they're good, I require double that. And she said, who do you have in mind? I said, me. She said, I can't believe it, you're in. So I had a wonderful time. And I did learn to play several things quite well, but I can't play in public. And I froze when I had to be in a recital. So that was the end of that, but we remained very good friends as long as she lived.
Looking at Temple and kind of the social and political impact that it's had in the city and on your life, have you been engaged in social and political action?
I guess I've been engaged in social and political action just through my voluntary associations and the time I put in. And I've never had any choice in it as such. It just came along and it had to be done.
Is there anything specific that comes to mind?
Not now.
Okay. Are there any special memories of Temple and your involvement here? Something, that clicks in, or something that a funny story, or?
Well, my husband was very much involved with Bethel and had been since he had come here from Pittsburgh, which is where he was born. And when the problem came up of the succession, when Dr. Franklin was going to retire, my husband was asked to represent my father, Leo Butzel. And so he did that and was always interested, but became very active and eventually, of course, became president of the board and deeply involved in Temple, which he always was. He had very deep feelings about his commitment to Judaism. And I went along very well every Friday night. I cannot think for how many years. And we enjoyed it. It was hard work.
One of the things that's, I think is of interest is the place the Temple plays in it sort of sets Jews apart, but then they're also at the same time engaged in the full community. And I see involvement in the Temple, but then also you're.
I never saw any division between the two. I've always been comfortable with Judaism, and as I think of my husband, he always knew what he was, and I think I always have known what I am, and I just live. And I have no feelings of apartheid whatsoever, either in my associations personally or voluntarily.
What are some things that you remember as you think about Temple and the changes over the years? What are some things you remember from before and the things that you see, say when your husband was president of Temple and what Temple looks like to you today?
There are many things in Temple as there is a shift in the attitude of what constitutes Reform Judaism. And I have very strong feelings, I think, about that. And perhaps that's just because I'm too old. But I've been active. I've gone with my husband many times to various conferences when he served on various boards, and I have had close friends with such people as Helena Nelson Glick, and spent time with them. I've always been comfortable with what I am. I don't bother about it. I'm just me. And there are things I strongly disagree with now, but as I said, maybe that's because I'm old.
Could you share some of those thoughts with us, some of the things that are new and different and perhaps more challenging to you?
No, I don't think I have them clearly formulated. I'm trying to learn. I'm not sure I shall, but I'm trying.
I want to hear a little bit more about that, about the trying to learn. I think that I'm kind of getting a picture of a woman who's engaged in life, like with a certain vigor, a certain passion, and excitement. And can you talk about that? I mean, ongoing education and participation.
Well, I don't, I'm just trying, excuse me, I'm trying to think. Well, I've had fights about intermarriage, interfaith marriage. I happen to believe in it. There was a lot of it in my own family. They all seem to work out very nicely. And so I feel very strongly about promoting, for instance, as it just come out very recently, that they do not, that apparently Reform Judaism at this point has just taken a position that you should not have dual education where there's intermarriage. You should not have children learning about two religions at one time. I don't think that's right. I think they should. I think they'll grow up being better balanced myself. And they choose, they mature and they choose and they learn and they think about why they're doing it. And I feel very strongly about that. I do not think that you should not have a mixed marriage of somebody to a Christian, for instance. I think that those children should learn about the Christian parents' religion. I think they should learn about the Jewish parents' religion. And I think if they grow up and get decent education and information and learn the feelings that are involved in each of these, I think that's very important for them in later life. So I disagree strongly with the newest move that came out just the other day in the New York Times. I do feel strongly about that.
As you're sitting here on the bib and being interviewed in front of this
Unhappy.
share that with us.
No, I've lost my ability now. Time was when I could sit up and probably marshal my thoughts better. But I'm not happy about it now. I'm really not happy here. But I'm willing to do it because I want it for the record. And I just hope that it'll be worthwhile, serve some purpose.
Not happy because you're uncomfortable with the situation. You're just such a wealth of wonderful information and history for all of us that are fortunate enough to get to learn from
You're very flattering, but I really don't believe you because I've passed the stage where I'm full of a lot of this information. I really am. It's up to other people. A lot of them I disagree with, some I agree with. And I don't really expect I'm going to change much.
No, and I don't think any of us are asking or expecting, right? Is there a message that you would want shared for future generations? Something about the temple or something about the future?
That maybe that I hope they will always continue to stand by and respect Judaism in its varying interpretations and forms. And I think perhaps it makes me think of an article long ago in a Foreign Affairs magazine, I think it was, in which they traced the difference between the attitude of the value of the individual in a line that came down like that with the Judeo-Christian standards on this side and the belittling of the individual worth and thoughts on the other side beyond that did not have the Judeo-Christian basis for the value of human life. And I think that was very important, and I see it more and more as the years pass, particularly in the world we're living in now. Isn't that enough out of me?
I guess the only thing that I would have asked is if there was anything, any social events, anything early on that you remember that made a lasting impression on you, something from
Not that you want on this tape.
Strike that question and we'll end it here. Okay.
Okay, well, thank you very much.
Well, I thank you for wanting me